What is up, gorgeous? Welcome back to my either podcast, Fight for Love, on Spotify and iTunes, or on my YouTube channel, Cats, Coffee, and Kickboxing. My name is Tanya. I'm a personal trainer in the Zurich area. I am a kickboxer, I'm a cat lover, and I'm a coffee lover. And here I am talking about stuff with you because that is what I do. So unfortunately, I know you guys wanted to see the cats today, but they're out because it's beautiful weather and they're just nowhere to be found. I don't even know if I have cats at this point. So we guess we have to wait for the weather to change again. So you can see my kitty cats again. Also, I'm giving you some of the bald skin today. That probably sounds weird on a podcast. So check this out on my YouTube channel. I'm not that weird, I promise. But I have a side cut and I tried to put all my hair on one side this time and see if it sticks. Well, I know you guys are on the edge of your seat because this is so interesting, but hey, bear with me. I have a really, really cool topic today, and it's gonna be a really, really honest journey with me, if you will. I'll take you into my mind and into my feelings because we're friends, we're so close. I want to share with you my thoughts on a topic that might offend some people, might offend a lot of people, might not, I don't know. But hey, like every very interesting topic, let me start with the disclaimer. And the disclaimer is, I sincerely respect every religion out there. Well, most of them. I don't like cults, but the religions. We're off to a good start, aren't we? Okay, again, disclaimer. Please don't feel offended. If you believe in something, if you believe in nothing, whatever, please know that I respect most beliefs out there. And as long as they don't hurt anybody, there we go. This is perfect. And I also want to stress that I do have a deep, very deep appreciation for every martial arts and combat sports teacher I ever had in my life. Every single one of you taught me a whole lot of very important things that I value to this day. I do appreciate what I learned, everything. And I hope you know this is not meant to say this is wrong or that is wrong. This is just my honest opinion on a topic that has been in my mind for some time. So let me start. The theme or the title of today's video and podcast is Spirituality, Atheism, Martial Arts, and Combat Sports. Man, I went down a rabbit hole. You guys are not going to believe it. And I just returned from a sports camp. I think maybe the English definition is not the same as the German one, so let me explain what I mean by that. I am a kickboxer right now. I used to be someone who practiced Kung Fu, and I went into a training camp with my old Kung Fu school. So this means we were at this very cool place in the mountains, and we just stayed there, all of us, and we just trained for a couple of days. Some people did a lot of sports, some people did just mainly hang out, some people practiced like wushu, which is like very nice forms of forms with a sword or just with their body or with whatever. We should Google it, man, whatever, Google it. It's really pretty to look at. It's a really nice like art form of moving, and it's really it's really tough on your legs too. Some people practice Kung Fu, some people practice Maibaran, which is, I guess, if I'm saying this correctly, a ancient form of Muay Thai. which I did there too. And yeah, I'll get into that later, but I just returned from spending a couple of days with my old Kung Fu school, which is more in the martial arts form of things, which I left this world a couple of years ago to get into the combat sports side of things. And to start out, let me read you the definition, or I tried to find a good definition. If we try to find the definition of martial arts, it says martial arts, various sports which originated chiefly in Japan, Korea, and China as forms of self-defense or attack, such as judo, karate, and kendo. And if we go into the definition of combat sports, we can't really find it. We can find what Wikipedia says. Wikipedia says a combat sport or fighting sport is a competitive contact sport that usually involves one-on-one combat. So this definition is kind of, well, it doesn't really answer the question, because martial arts can be competitive. Combat sports does some sorts of martial arts, or does sports that originated from martial arts. So it's kind of hard to say, but then I found a different definition on a site of I think it's a karate school. Yeah, it's a karate school. And this is where my descent into the rabbit hole started. You'll see why in a second. Just let me read you parts of the definition, which I think really say a lot what martial arts are. Bear in mind, combat sports is more of the sporting aspect of things. It's the one-on-one combat. You train for one-on-one combat. It's just a sport. Now let's get into martial arts. This website says traditional martial arts are not a sport. Or to say it better, they are not just a sport, and according to the numerous scientific researches conducted on the subject, they can produce effects not only on health and fitness, but also on one's emotional and physical balance, promoting, in fact, a holistic development capable of radically transforming for the better, and in all aspects, the quality of life of the practitioners. So, as you can tell, this is a martial arts school. They're not biased at all. Yes, they are. For those who are listening and didn't see my sign that I made, yes, they are pretty biased, but I think overall they're saying holistic, and holistic is one of these words that say a lot, but what does it really mean, you know? Or it's just a word. But like if they go on to say in Greek, or holistic comes from the Greek noun holism, which means all or the whole. So it just involves more than just the sport itself. It goes on to say, hold on. Here. It goes on to say that martial arts do not only activate specific attention, but improve and enhance the state of attention, which is the ability to activate and focus one's attention on everything. So not just the sport, but everything. It also, or I think what I saw in a different setting was, sorry, I'm touching the camera. I know it looks weird, probably. I think what I read somewhere else, or maybe in this article, but I can't find it right now. But what I think it really says what martial arts is it's combining the mental, physical, and spiritual attributes of the entire of everything. I mean, martial arts usually originated from, no, not usually. Martial arts originated from an Eastern philosophy, of an Eastern concept of fighting, self-defense, that also includes spiritual aspects and focuses on a lot of mental work too, which combat sports also does, but in a different setting. Let's read on. This site also claims further researches then showed a correlation between the contact practice of traditional martial arts and the decrease in the rate of aggression and antisocial behaviors, which is a consequent increase in the ability to regulate and manage one's emotional stages and stress tolerance. So it says that, or it means that, in my words, that martial arts reduces aggression and kind of calms you down, helps you focus on everything you do, keeps you in the moment, in my words again, and just keeps you focused on whatever it is you're doing. And it goes on to say, this is where I find this very interesting. It goes on to say, the remarkable thing is that in two different and independent studies conducted by researchers Nosenchuk and Schwalson, this correlation appeared only in traditional martial art practitioners, while it was completely absent and, pay attention, sometimes even reversed in combat sports practitioners. In other words, in the context of these two papers, some combat sports athletes showed an increase in the states of anger triggered by the same sports practice and the consequent antisocial behaviors. So this site claims that while martial arts helps you with focus, helps you with stress tolerance, helps you to be less aggressive, combat sports does the opposite, which I found super interesting, because there's beef, y'all. I mean, this is I'm sorry, I think it's so funny. This is a martial arts side telling us that martial arts good, combat sports bad. And I went into this is again, I was in the rabbit hole and I went deeper because I wanted to know, what the fuck is this site claiming, right? And bear in mind, I love both. I love martial arts, I love combat sports. So I went on to find the study, which was not linked, obviously. And I found one study that of one of the dudes that this guy is talking about, which I read you the abstract. I don't want to read you the whole abstract. I can link it in the comments, but it actually says that blah, blah, blah. The review revealed that even though a considerable amount of research on social psychological outcomes of martial arts practice has been conducted over the years, to date, it has not brought clarity in the existing duality regarding the possible effects of martial arts involvement. And it's basically talking about the effects on aggressiveness and antisocial behavior. So this study claims, well, you can't really tell, right? So then I found, I was looking at another study that actually this study used another study to make its abstract. And I found different study that said, or the original, one of the original studies that claimed that people in combat sports are more aggressive. And I'll read you the abstract and the methods. Abstract background. A limited number of mostly cross-sectional studies have examined the possible effects of power sports, they call it power sports, they mean combat sports, on aggressive and antisocial involvement in children and youth. The majority of these studies have serious methodological limitations, and results are partly contradictory. Longitudinal studies were representative reasonably large samples and etiquette dependent variables are lacking. So as if I understand this correctly, it says that, well, we don't really know. I'm not too good at reading studies, to be honest, to be fully honest with you. This is why I'm going to link these underneath my my YouTube video, so you can look at it yourself if you're interested. And then it goes on to say methods. The relationship between participation in power or fight and strength sports, boxing, wrestling, weightlifting, and Oriental martial arts. Here again, why is it talking about Oriental martial arts if they say combat sports or power sports make people more aggressive, but it involves Oriental martial arts? So it's kind of confusing. It doesn't really make sense. Anyway, again, I'll start from scratch. The relationship between participation in power or fight and strength sports, boxing, wrestling, weightlifting, and Oriental martial arts, and violent and antisocial behavior was examined in a sample of 477 boys aged 11 to 13 years at a time over a 2-year period. Making use of information about different participation patterns over time, the longitudinal design provided an opportunity to examine specified hypotheses about possible causal effects of power sports. Blah, blah, blah. It goes on to say, leads to an increase or enhancement of antisocial involvement in the form of elevated levels of violent as well as nonviolent antisocial behavior outside sports. In addition, there were no indications of selective effects. The presence of such effects would imply that boys who started with power sports were characterized by already elevated levels of antisocial involvement. So if I understand this correctly, this study basically says, well, some boys between 11 and 13 experienced or showed some aggressive behavior or antisocial behavior. And they were doing boxing, wrestling, weightlifting, or Oriental martial arts. And this is the study that this martial arts site that I cited in the beginning took and concluded that martial arts good, combat sports bad. So just to give you an idea of what we're talking about here, it's a beef between martial arts and combat sports. And I think it's so funny. I actually think it's stupid too, because why do we have to do this? I don't know. Okay, but this is not the issue here, because the title of this video or this podcast is Spirituality, Atheism, Martial Arts, and Combat Sports. And so let me take you back to the beginning and tell you why I am even making this video. So as I said, I just returned from this training camp with my old Kung Fu school, which is a martial arts school. And right now, for the last couple of years, I've been doing combat sports. So remember, martial arts is more of a spiritual, holistic, as they say, art form that has a lot of culture in it, originated from from the Eastern countries. And combat sports is just a sport itself. Combat sports is just you train to go one-on-one. Boxing is a good example. Boxing doesn't have any spiritual attributes to it. Boxing is just boxing. You train to box. So this is combat sports. And so I've been on both sides of this one coin. And again, the reason why I'm recording this right now is because I don't know where I stand right now on all this spiritual WooWoo Science kind of stuff. And what I mean by that is that I used to believe that Qi was a thing, energy, as in like the spiritual energy, stuff connecting everything in a spiritual way. I used to believe that was a thing. And right now, I don't really believe this anymore. I actually believe, I don't know what I'm believing right now, actually. I went into the atheism side of things. More and more over the last couple of months, years. And I am really leaning towards atheism nowadays. I actually grew up Catholic. My parents were not very religious, but my grandma was. And she kind of influenced me to believe in God when I was small. And school also, back then we had like religious classes, like I don't know how to call them. They were just classes where you learned about Jesus and stuff. I think these days they learn about different religions, which I think is really cool. But when you were baptized and born Christian, you went into like this Christian school and learned about Jesus and stuff. And while I never really warmed up to the story of the Bible or any story at all, never really believed in hell, I still grew up Catholic, and I still saw all these things that kind of were weird. I mean, I did believe in God, but for example, they made us go, hold on, what is that word? What is that word in English? Let me see. They did us like, when I was, confession. Oh, I knew that. Oh God. Okay, they made us do like the confessions, like, you know, these ancient Catholic style confessions. We didn't have this little like small cabin where on one side you have the pastor and on the other side you have the person confessing. We did it like we were modern, so we did it just in a separate room. On one chair there was the child, and on the other chair was the pastor, and we just had to confess our sins, right? And I remember thinking when I was like, I don't know what age I was, maybe 10 years old or something, like, what the fuck would I confess, you know? Funny thing is, I actually, in a Christian sense, I sinned because I was lying to the pastor, because I just made up stories, because I didn't really know. I was back then I was like a pretty nice kid. I didn't really do any, like, I was not an asshole kid, you know. I was just nice. I was just trying to be nice to everybody. So I didn't really have anything to confess, so I just made up things. And I remember thinking, this is weird, like, this is wrong. Why would you have like a small, like a little girl confessing her sins to a grown-up? That's fucking weird. I don't know how you see it. I think it's fucking weird, and it always stuck with me. So I'm not a fan of the Catholic faith personally. Again, I don't want to attack any Catholics out there, but I'm not feeling it, and I'm not feeling the Bible, and it kind of made me just drop or abandon my faith and just kind of drop out of church and stop paying taxes for it, because I just never, it's just not my thing. And I was kind of searching for something else. And at the same time, I was in the martial arts, in the Kung Fu school I was in, and I learned a lot about spirituality, about Buddhism, about Eastern cultures, which I value to this day, but also about energy and chi and all this stuff, which I believed in. But again, don't believe in anymore, or not as much. I'm still trying to keep an open mind, but I don't really believe it exists, if you'd ask me straightforward. So I don't know where I stand, honestly. I'm somewhere between believing in something and atheism. Maybe I'm agnostic. I guess that's the best term for what I feel like right now. And I'm changing right now. So I think maybe in a couple of years it will be different. In a couple of months it might be different. And again, this is just my experience. I don't want to like tell you guys what to believe in and what not to believe in. I'm just saying this is just how my experience was. And this brings me back to martial arts and combat sports, because one has a lot of spirituality and religion and tradition in it, and the other one is just a sport. So let me walk you through the pros and cons of martial arts and the pros and cons of combat sports, because I went into this podcast, this video, thinking, or this topic, thinking, I want to answer the question, do we need spirituality in combat sports at all? Or do we just need it in martial arts? And yeah, let me just walk you through what I think are the pros and cons of martial arts and also of combat sports. So the pros of what I learned in my 10 years of martial arts. First, culture. I learned a lot of other religions, about other religions. I learned a lot about other cultures. For example, we were in the Shaolin Temple for a week. We attended a Buddhist ceremony in the morning. It was like 1.5 hours long. It started at 4 a.m. in the morning, and it was a really cool experience. We had Shaolin monks coming into our school, teaching us Kung Fu, teaching us also about Buddhism, and like tea ceremonies, and just all these Tai Chi, Qigong, all these things of Chinese culture that are of Buddhist culture that I think are deeply interesting and that I value a lot to this day. And I think that is something people rarely experience, like being so close to other cultures and being able to talk to a Shaolin monk, not directly. I mean, we did learn a little bit of Chinese, but like not a lot at all. But we had one of our teachers translate all the time, and it was just really cool to be this close to somebody from that culture, where so many cool things come from, like all the movies, the entire tradition, the idea of Kung Fu itself, and even what Kung Fu means. It means hard work. It means that you can do Kung Fu with everything you do. You can just, you can work, you can do Kung Fu, you can cook, you can do Kung Fu, because as long as you're in the moment, you're doing Kung Fu, you're working, it's about your focus. And I really love that. I think that's really cool. Second pro of martial arts, kind of gets into the first one too. It's Buddhism itself. I think Buddhism is really beautiful. I think it's a cool religion. I like that they don't have a god, like they do have Buddha, but Buddha is not like, as far as, if I'm understanding this correctly, is not a god figure, but it's just a man who lived. And so Buddhism is just more a way of life, like some rules to life, and they're really they're really respectful. It's an idea of this idea of living in a very respectful and polite kind of way, which I like a lot. Pro number 3 are the rituals. And I mean, when I say rituals, I mean meditation, or after we meditate, we would do like this thank you thing. Also before we start martial arting with each other, like before if we do an exercise with each other, like you have your partner and you do the exercise with your partner, you also do this thank you gesture, which I think is really nice. It's a nice way to show respect to the other person and show your gratitude for somebody working with you and helping you along the way of becoming better at what you do. Also, I'm a fan of the incense sticks and candles and everything, like all this kind of temple setup. When you meditate or when you do whatever you do, it kind of helps me to get into this situation and just be there and calm down and putting my focus on what I'm doing right now. And this is something very, very useful to this day, being able to have my focus on what I'm doing. If you guys don't know, I have ADHD, so I think this helps me tremendously to even work with what is hard for me. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, awareness, just being aware of what's happening around you and not being like stressed out all the time. And I think this is really a very nice thing. Number 4 of pros of what I learned in martial arts is focus. Again, being in the moment, focus in meditation, not thinking about things, but just being present, being here in the moment. And it just really gets your focus on what it is you're doing. I know I'm repeating myself because these things kind of go into each other. But again, first was culture, then was Buddhism, then was rituals, now it's focus. Number 5 is feeling. And when I say feeling, I mean like I learned a lot about just letting go what I can't control, and just getting into, when we would listen to music or like epic music or stuff like that, just feeling the music and vibing with it, you know. And it just, again, it brings you into the present. I think it all comes back to these ideas of Buddhism and Chinese culture. And number 6 is community. What I really love about my the martial arts school I was in, was the community it has. Like I just realized that now that I've been in the training camp. I've been away for 3 years, and I've been back in the training camp, and people were just like, Tanya, you know, like as if I've never been gone, and nobody holds a grudge, and people just accept you the way you are. And this is very beautiful, and I love that. And every time I spend time with this community, I feel like I can just be completely be myself, and people don't judge me for it. People value me for what I can bring to the table. And this is very beautiful, and I love this. And this has really helped me to express myself even and become myself even more. And this is really beautiful. I love that. So now let's get into the cons of what I learned in martial arts. And I want to like walk you through the same steps as in the pros. Number 1 is culture. The con of culture, but I don't really think I have a con to say about that, because what's bad about understanding a different culture? Number 2 is Buddhism. The con of Buddhism, in my opinion, again, I don't want to like get on your wrong side, or I don't want to like really don't want to be mean to anybody. And actually, I forgot to Google something because I wanted to know something. Okay, I was curious about the bad side of Buddhism, or the con of Buddhism itself, in my opinion. And I've heard that many times before, and I kind of agree with that. Buddhism is kind of a passive religion. Just accept what you can't change. And sometimes that can even lead to accepting what you could change. In my opinion, again, I think it's really passive, just accepting things as they are, which can be good, but sometimes you need that fighting spirit to if something's not the way you are, make it the way you want it to be. And I feel like Buddhism sometimes misses out on that. And it's just like, yeah, be appreciative and be thankful, and just accept it, you know. And I think that can be a bad thing too. Also, and this is what I was Googling just right now, because I forgot to Google that before. I was gonna talk about women in Buddhism, because I mean, let's be honest, usually women don't have the best place in religion, which is also why I kind of push religion away from myself, because in most religions, women are like lower class citizens, and you can argue with me all you want. It says so as much as far as I know, in the Bible and the Quran, and I just don't like that. Why would I? I'm a woman. God damn it. Why would I be lesser than a man? You know, that's just something that grinds my gears. In Buddhism, yeah, I really missed out on this. Sorry guys, but maybe you guys know something about that. I've heard that it's kind of it has two sides to it. I heard people say that Buddhism values women a lot, and I've heard people say that no, it doesn't. It also makes women like second-class citizens. So I don't know, but it's just in most religions that's just the case. Okay, let's move on. Number 3, rituals. I feel like rituals can get culty really fast. A lot of this can get culty really fast. If you have a community and you have certain rituals you do in the community and everybody kind of believes in it, it just kind of sets you up to close your mind towards other things, because the group has same ideals and the same ideas of how things are, which again is how religion works in most, well, yeah, it is. And it just, yeah, it can get culty really fast. Number 4 was focus, where I was talking about meditation and just focusing your mind on stuff. Again, here I love meditation. What I do not love about it anymore is the energy component on it, like the WooWoo Science kind of, or let's call it Shamalama Ding Dong Science. That's how we call it, of energy, of chi flowing, of kind of connecting yourself with a higher power and recharging yourself with this higher power. This is what I don't believe anymore, and this is what they kind of teach you when you meditate, or a lot of people do. I'm not on board with that anymore, but I still do believe in meditation in a scientific perspective. I'll come back to that later, but I don't believe in this Shamalama Ding Dong energy kind of charging you up. And if you believe in that, please, again, don't feel offended. I hope I'm not offending you. This is how I used to believe that. I don't anymore. If you still believe that, that's okay. I'm just saying I don't believe it anymore. And I feel like this is, for me, in my books, this is a calm, because again, it can get culty really fast. That's actually the biggest con I have. Number 5 was feeling stuff, kind of letting go of stuff, of things you don't need anymore, kind of just getting your mind to focus on the moment, on the present. There's not really a con to that, in my opinion. Number 6 was community and just accepting people as they are. Again, here I'm saying it can get culty if you have a community that has the same values, the same ideas. It can be critical, because sometimes, or I've seen that in different martial arts groups that, or I've heard it from other martial arts schools, like the one I was in, they weren't bad at all, but I could just tell there were certain patterns that could lead down a path if you're not careful. They are careful with it, so I'm glad. I mean, they're doing a good job. But I've heard of other like kung fu schools that are really like, oh, this is our teacher, and we have to kind of submit to him, and his word is the law, and everybody believes what he is saying. And then we do these rituals, and then we do this meditation, and then we feel the energy, and this is where it gets super culty from there. And when you believe in something and you're not open-minded, it's critical in my books. Same if you don't believe in anything. Say, if I was to say I'm 100% atheist and I don't keep an open mind about what might still be possible, maybe I get down a path that is bad. I don't know. I just feel like we have to stay open-minded, no matter what we believe or what we don't believe, and just respect each other either way, as long as we're not hurting anybody else. But I'm also an advocate of not mixing like governments and religion. But I'll come back to that too, because now I want to get into the pros and cons of combat sports. So the pros of combat sports is you learn to work hard, like really hard. You learn to train really, really hard. And you can argue that you also learn to train hard in martial arts, but my experience is that the training is never as tough in martial arts as it is in combat sports, because the sporting aspect of it, martial arts has more, it's slow, it's like you feel the movements, you do them slowly, you do them patiently, and combat sports is more like, bam, now you go, and you give it all you got all the time. So you learn to work hard. Second, you learn to not give up, because you go really far with your training and you just have to keep going. Again, in martial arts, the Shaolin did the same with us, but that was, again, just one aspect of the entire picture. But in combat sports, every training is like that. You just go through it, you just work hard, you don't give up, you just you are trained to do more than you think you can do, which is really cool. Also, number 3 is respect, which applies to both, I would say, martial arts and combat sports. But I learned to really respect my opponents and my sparring partners, because if you're not respectful to the level of the other person, one is going to be stronger and hurt the other person, and that's what we don't want to do. So we always kind of adjust our level when we do sparring, for example, to the other person, or if we practice kicks. If a 90-kilogram man would kick me in my quad, my leg, full force, I would die. No, I wouldn't die, but it would hurt like hell, and I would not be able to walk for at least 2 weeks, or I'd have an injury. So obviously this guy is gonna tune down a bit and go to my level. This is what I mean when I say respect in combat sports. Because it gets really physical, and if you're not respectful, you're gonna hurt the other person. Number 4 is toughen up. You learn to toughen up. You learn to, again, you don't have to. You don't have to do that in martial arts. You don't have to go all in, but I like to go all in. And when you do sparring and maybe you get hit in the face on accident, or the kick was a little bit harder than you thought it would be, or even you do a fight, you get into a fight and it's all full force. You learn to just, if something hurts you, like if you get punched in the face, you learn to just toughen up and just kind of, how do you say, yeah, to just go through it. It's like, okay, it hurts, but I'll go on. Even though I'm in pain right now, I'll just go on. And I think it's a cool thing, because I learned a lot to just not let that break my focus or break my will to go on. I think that's a really cool thing. Number 5 is, it's a community too, but it doesn't have these rules to it. It doesn't have the trainer that tells you how to live, kind of. In martial arts, sometimes you have this leader figure that kind of tells you not only how to train, but also teaches you the way of life, which is kind of cool, but again, a little culty sometimes. You don't have that in combat sports. You just have your trainer. He just trains you. He doesn't tell you how to clear your mind. He doesn't tell you how to live your life or what would be the best course of action. You don't have this kind of spiritual teacher thing to him, because he's just your trainer. And I like that, because again, that's what I was gonna get at later, but I think I'm gonna say it now, is I believe in separating religion from the government, for example, because if you have religious ideas, or in martial arts you have a traditional ideas of how you should live your life, um, if you're in this group and you don't agree with these rules, it's tougher. But if you're in combat sports, for example, and there are no such rules, you're just free to do and think and be however you want. And you just don't mix the sport with a kind of religious background. I kind of like that. I liked martial arts too, but now that I don't believe in the spiritual part of things anymore, I like the other component, or the other, just the sporting aspect without any spiritual aspects to it. I like it more right now. So that, for me, that's a plus. Then let's get into the cons of what I learned in combat sports. The cons for me are I call it macho attitude. I don't know what to call it. Sometimes you get into martial arts schools, combat sports schools, and it's like you feel like you just walked into a boys fight club. And usually it doesn't, like, it's not that serious. You get to learn the guys, you get to learn another guys, and they're really cool, they're really sweet, they're really nice, but just it feels like these tough guys are there, and or this tough women too, and it just sets a different vibe. And I think it kind of sets the tone for, just what I was saying earlier. You learn to just suck it up. You learn to get punched in the face and just keep going, and which is a cool thing, but it can also lead to this attitude of, oh, I'm the toughest. I've seen that. I've been to different, like, I'm not pointing fingers to any school, just so you know, you guys who are watching this, who trained me, I'm not like pointing my finger at you. I've been to different martial arts schools in my life, and I've heard of different martial arts schools and how they handle things. I've been to different combat sports schools, and I've seen different settings. So I'm not pointing my finger at where I trained or where I'm training right now, or otherwise I would not have stayed that long. So just so you know, but in some combat sports schools, it's just this, oh, I'm so tough attitude, which can backfire. It's which brings me to the second point, is like this suck it up attitude. And the suck it up attitude, to me, brings the risk with it of like overtraining yourself. Maybe your knee hurts when you train and you don't know why, but you learn to suck it up. So you just keep on training instead of taking a break. Because I feel like in combat sports, taking a break or just regeneration sometimes feels like you're not doing enough, because you're taught to work hard, you're taught to suck it up. And when there's the situation where you really should be taking a break, you kind of feel bad, because you feel like you have to go through with it. And that's where it gets dangerous, in my opinion, physically dangerous. And this is where I think some trainers could benefit from just taking a step back and just kind of tuning it down a little bit. With some people, I mean, other people need that little kick in the butt attitude, others don't. Also, people in combat sports are usually pretty young, and if you're young, your body can stand a lot. But again, like, just don't break these boys and girls. Just train them in a way that they can still train when they're 40 plus. I think that sometimes gets lost in combat sports because you have to be tough. But remember that regeneration is key, and it's really important to stay healthy over the long run. Then number 3, cons of what I learned in combat sports is it can get pretty rough in combat sports. I have been talking about CTE, which I'm not going to say the entire name from, because the entire name see what it stands for because it's a really complicated word and I forgot it. But if you Google CTE, you'll see it's an injury that gets into your brain if you get hit in the head too many times. It's very common in American football. It's common in ice hockey. It's common in soccer, but also in boxing. Kickboxing, I think not so much because we don't like only hit each other on the head, but we kick each other in the body. But it's just an injury you can get when you get hit in the head too many times. And I feel like in combat sports, sometimes they might benefit from also tuning it down a bit and making sure people train a little bit safer than they do. Especially I see that in young guys too, like 20-year-old guys, they go full force at each other. And sometimes maybe we should just teach them to be a little bit more careful because the long-term damage you can do to yourself, they are there and they're just not talked about, which I think is not correct, but well. Number 4 is community. Community, I put it in cons and I can put it in pros because you don't have the same sense, or I never experienced the same sense of community in combat sports as I did in martial arts. But then again, in martial arts, it was more of almost like a religious setup or spiritual setup of people in some ways, where it's not like that in combat sports. Whenever I felt the sense of community in combat sports, it was when we went on fights. When our school went on a fight because one of the students participated in one and we were just all there and kind of cheering for the person fighting. But it was really, it fluctuated really fast. But again, here's my experience. I bet a lot of people out there have different experiences with that. And I just feel like you don't create the same sense of community in combat sports as you do in martial arts. But then again, in martial arts, the community is just more a thing that can get culty. There we go. So the main question I was going to address is, would combat sports profit from spirituality? Or should we separate the two? Here's what I think. Calmness and focus of the martial arts component, the awareness of being in the moment, and the toughness and energy output of combat sports. And now I get into Chinese philosophy. It's like yin and yang. It's two sides of one coin. Or if you want to put it into maybe more scientific terms, you just have to have a balanced mind. I mean, if that's scientific enough, what I mean is meditation helps you to calm down. And that is something that's not WooWoo science, but also you can measure it. You can measure the brain, you can measure the pulse. Meditation helps you to calm down. While fighting, sparring, combat sports produces a lot of adrenaline. I can't tell you how many times after a sparring session, I lay awake in bed and can't really fall asleep because my adrenaline levels are just really high. And I think, in my opinion, if we combine meditation and the calmness and the presence and the being in the moment of martial arts and the go full force and give it all you got and adrenaline and fighting spirit of combat sports, we get a balance that is really valuable for the individual itself, for the athlete itself. And again, here it is. Here it is. I was looking for this. I'm going to repeat myself, but I put it down at the bottom because I think it's important to say this one more time. I'm an advocate for separating government and religion because religion should never determine the rules we live by, but the society as a whole, the society out of all religions and all beliefs or non-believers, they should as one live or determine the rules we live by as a society of different religions and different ideas. Not one religion, but all of us should agree on what rules we should live by. And I think this reminds me more of combat sports, where there's just different people, and it's not about any spiritual component. It's just different people doing the same sport and different ideas, and everybody agreeing to be respectful and to help each other train, right? But as for me, I will continue to light incense sticks and meditate, while at the same time probably not believing in chi or anything supernatural, but I will do my best to keep an open mind. And again, this topic is not an easy one, and let me say, I am grateful for every single teacher I had in martial arts, in combat sports. I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just saying what I have experienced and heard of in the last couple of years, or the last 10 plus years I've been in martial arts and combat sports. And I've seen and heard ridiculous things, and I've seen and heard wonderful things. And I just really want to bring these worlds together, because in my opinion, they both have very valuable assets and teach us a lot. And this whole beefing thing going on between martial arts and combat sports it's stupid, okay? It's dumb. Don't do it. Just find what you like. Whether you want a spiritual component to it or not, just do what you want, do what makes you happy. Take what I said maybe as an opinion out of many. And remember that it's important to just do what feels right for you and live the way so you don't hurt anybody else, whatever that means to you, whatever religion that is. Just do what makes you happy and what feels right for you and doesn't hurt anybody. So with that said, this is it. This is my whole experience. This is my very personal outlook on martial arts and combat sports, spirituality and atheism. And yeah, I'm really curious what you guys think. So I will be so happy if you reach out to me, either comment on the YouTube video on my YouTube channel, Cats, Coffee and Kickboxing, or leave a comment or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm Tanya Mader. I'm on Instagram at It's Up to You Personal Training. I am, that's it. Where else? Well, that's that. You can find my website. It's in German though. You can find it on tanyamader.ch, or it's up to personaltraining.ch. Yeah, that's it. I'm done. Yeah, don't forget, you're stronger than you think. Thank you so much for tuning in, and reach out to me. I'm so curious to see what you think, what your experiences are. Thank you so much for being here with me. It's been longer than I planned, but hey, you're still here. If you're still here, thank you. I'll see you soon, and bye-bye.